This is our Unconstitutional Awakening program.
Liftoff will start in T-minus 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition.
Brought to you by KD Consulting Redesigned.
Ahoy there, mateys. It's time to set sail on another episode of Unconstitutional Awakening, the podcast. Of course, you guys know it's the continuation of Spooky Month over here on the show. Figured I'd be in costume again tonight like I've been going. I'm hoping the rest of the crew up here will get it together and maybe get at least one night in with me in a costume. Come on, guys. You can't just leave me hanging every night, right? But I hope everyone is doing fantastic here tonight. Everybody over there watching on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, and listening around the world on all the audio apps, man. We truly appreciate you guys, and we appreciate, this week I've had an influx in signups for over there at Unconstitutional Awakening, the website.com. It's I've been keeping up with that this week. I don't know who else can see it, but we've had quite a bit of new signups this week as members and such like that, and that's great, man. And when you're over here at this website, you can find all the links to check everything out, to watch us. The website's ever expanding, man. We've got new sections for Caitlin and Bandit that are just going to start sharing, some information from their end too. You can come over here and even listen to the show, check out our awesome merch store, and even all of our sponsors, Kirk Elliott, Peachy Key Creations, Ammo Can Survival, and my buddy Brett Pike with Homeschools Connected. Man, you can get links to all those guys and get back over there and see what they can do to help you out. They've all got a variety of different things that we're really into, because we consider them alternatives to what's going on in today's world and where the world's going. We're looking for that alternative system to build. That's kind of what Luis is after. Like, he's a good guy up there, man. I learn more and more about Luis every single day, man. And I gotta say, he's an outstanding human. I keep saying that, but I'm sure the crew will back me up on this, man. Like, he's an interesting, outstanding human. Like, good dude. Well, tonight though, I got another friend that I found over here on TikTok. You guys know how much I love finding people on there. They're the most interesting people in the world come from TikTok. Like, it's just a super cool place to hang out and look for videos. And my buddy Art up here I've seen some of the stuff where he's been out there just talking about reality and just things that are good to talk about. And I asked him if he wanted to come on, and he was like, yeah, and I'd like to talk about the power of narrative. And like, to me, I was set back, because I was like, that's a good conversation to really have. Like, we kind of touch on it a little bit here and there throughout the show, and I've always thought that narratives have the power to take people places, and when we get to those places, we kind of understand. We're not really aware of this, but narratives are the driving forces of social change. They drive politics, they drive everyday life, like literally. Like, there's so many different narratives going on a regular basis. Fascism, communism, capitalism, they all have their own narratives, their own heroes, their own villains. Like, there's different narratives in these things, and that whole pen is mightier than the sword narrative, like that's because of the power of narratives, I believe. So when Art brought up this subject, I was like, this would be a great subject to have. So, as I normally do, I'm going to go around the table real quick and see how everybody's doing this evening. We're going to start with you, Art. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm good, and just honored and humbled that you invited me on your show. But I'm good.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm always looking for interesting people that have good opinions and good views on life, I guess. There's things that I personally align with, or I just know that people that we watch and deal with, they personally align with too, and that's why I was like, well, this guy should make for some decent content. So that's why I reached out to you, man. So I appreciate you joining us tonight. It's fantastic. Caitlin, how are you this evening?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. You doing all right? The storm passed up there by you?
It did. It finally stopped raining. The weather the last week and a half has been insane. I mean, like 80 degrees one day, 60 degrees the next. And so we all have coughs and runny noses.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
It's been in the 90s the past couple days down here with me. So, everybody's been talking about how cold it is, and I'm like, what do you mean? I'm in shorts still. Like, it's hot in the refrigerator, man. Luis, how are you doing up there in New York tonight?
So now that you mentioned the weather, I mean, the other day my friend opens the barn doors of a little house, like a house outside of the business. I forgot what it's called. But the thing is, the door flies off, just straight up flies off completely, like shatters and breaks into two pieces. We're just thinking, well, at least there was nobody out there, because they would have been just smacked like hard by a door. So the winds up here got up for a while. So that was interesting. I think about it.
Bandit, what's going on out there this evening?
Doing good, man. It's getting a little colder here, man, for just Kentucky. We're getting down into the high 30s, low 40s.
Right.
It's fall. It's definitely fall here, man. Definitely fall.
It's cool enough at night that I've started drinking my coffee in the evening time again, but during the day I'm still dying. So, like today, for example, we had literally on the box it said it was a 500-pound refrigerator.
What, really? 500 pounds?
A 500-pound refrigerator for two people. Sure, the other guy's a little bit bigger than me, but we all remember I'm a tiny fellow, so this was a fun day.
I can confirm that.
How do you move such a thing? How big is the base? Is this one
you strap it to the hand trucks, and one person goes on one end and one.
The double door Sub-Zeros.
Actually, it was
Is that like the double door Sub-Zeros?
It was a GE 5-door profile.
5 doors?
5 doors.
You say 5 doors?
28 cubic foot
I've never even seen this thing.
Oh, no. I know it's got the two main top doors. It's got a pull, and it's got the 3 drawers, right?
2 drawers, 2 top doors, and a secret door like the Samsung.
Okay.
That refrigerator.
It's so much to break.
I had 8 stairs to freedom.
So much to break.
A 500-pound fridge with 8 stairs to freedom.
Do you have a stair climber? No. That's a legit thing. It's the stair climber. When I worked for Coca-Cola moving vending machines, and they range from 900 pounds to 1,200 pounds, and they have this crawler that will climb stairs. You strap it in like a dolly, and it's electronic, and it will climb like it has
for them.
Yeah.
What? Well, I believe you. I've seen some things like that before, but no, I think he's running on human strength, and that's the important part. That's how Jimmy stays very fit and lean, just moving stuff. I mean, it's not an easy job.
So, well, apologize for the tangent there. I do kind of want to hop over here and Art. I'd like to get a little information about you for the listeners and for the crew here. So, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, sir?
Yeah, I'm a boring guy, so there's not much to tell. I grew up single parent household. Mom got married. We had a stepfather for about 8-10 years, but it was mostly just the 3 of us. And then I had 2 cousins. I know you didn't ask all this, but it's part of my story. But my 2 cousins, they were always with us from the day they were born. So when my aunt died, my mom took them in, so they're like my brothers. So if people ask me how many brothers do I have, I always say 3. I never call them my cousins unless somebody who knows, that they're really my cousins, then I have to explain that. But other than that, so I got 3 brothers. I guess I grew up kind of liberal, not really focused in terms of what was going on around me in the world, and just growing and maturing. And I got on social media originally to do music because I was involved with that. We got close, but never quite made it. And had no intention of getting into anything cultural or political or whatever. But as I began to look and see what was going on around me, more and more I got drawn into that. I got on TikTok simply to be entertained. I had zero desire to do any videos myself, let alone anything dealing with the social commentary or politics. I just wanted to watch dancing, some booty shaking, and some jokes. That's the only reason why I got on TikTok. And then I started seeing everything that's going on around, and I had to start speaking out against some of the stuff I was seeing. But that's how my channel came to be.
Yeah.
And I'm just continuing to grow my brand and my channel.
Hey, no, there's nothing wrong with that, you know, and that's what brought me to you. Is I seen you on there having some pretty strong opinions about the world today, I guess. You know, just looking around, and you made mention of growing up in that kind of liberal aspect of things. But as we spoke, you know, outside of this and before the show started, you know, you consider yourself to have very conservative views, which made me make the joke about kind of being myself, kind of looking like Frank Zappa with ideals, you know, like very, very progressive but conservative at the same time. Like there's
I think a lot of us that are in this mindset that we are in are like that.
At a different pace, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of a concept of moderate. You
Right.
you understand some elements that you want, that everybody wants, but then
Right.
what's the common denominator is split in a weird way. So that weird dichotomy is what creates the middle. And the middle is the majority of the country.
Right.
100 million people are the middle. 100 million people just shut the fuck up, though. That's the problem. Is they all shut the fuck up.
The narrative is, though, is that there's only two sides. And that majority of America is either left or right.
If no party voted, they would always win.
Exactly.
Right.
They would win every election. No party.
Exactly. Oh,
look at the no party. Have you voted for the no party?
I forgot.
But now here's where I'll call your bluff on that, Luis, because if you really look at voting numbers, no one's won for quite a long time, because more than 80% of the population says they don't want nothing to do with it, and that should be how it truly counted.
So that's the weird thing in Puerto Rico. A lot of people vote. It's like one of the highest in the entire country, and it's a free day to go vote. Like, you don't have to go to work, which it should be a holiday, and it is a holiday in many countries. When you go vote, it's a holiday. It increases exponentially the amount of people that vote, because a lot of people that don't vote is because they're fucking working.
Well, no,
I mean,
or
they got lives, they got busy lives.
Or you could look at it like I do and understand that that's still mob rule, so it's wrong.
It's a majorial dictatorship.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I mean, I get that, but I'm saying that the weirdness of the idea of like too much democracy is bad, then not too, but then too little is also bad. It's like this weird mix right in between, which is where the problem lies. Is like there's not enough people in between yet, but there should be.
I think the problem is that number one, we forget that we're all frogs in the same pot. And when that water
you are definitely white, man.
And then the second thing I think we forget,
we're in a giant soup.
Humanity is the humanity of those who don't think like us. We deny anybody who doesn't think like us their humanity, but that comes from the power of narrative. And I think that we need to realize that at the end of the day, we're all just trying to survive. We all want peace for the most part, unless you have those outliers, people who just want to rule the world, pinky in the brain type people. But yeah, we have to see the humanity of each other and realize that when you talk to people, instead of talking at them, you begin to accept that, hey, you know, we're not really that divergent. And we're more in the middle than we think. So yeah, I'm radical with some of my thoughts, but I really just want, I'm really just kind of.
We want peace.
Some thoughts, and then some I'm not.
You want to be left alone, right?
Basically, that's it. That's it. When I got on TikTok, I didn't get involved.
Yeah, right. Just leave me alone.
That's
Right.
us all the way.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna pay my rent. I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna pay my rent. I ain't got time for all this other stuff.
Well,
Right.
I mean, just look at the current problem right now that 100+ million people in this country can't afford all the food that they need every month. Just remember that, and it was 150 million in 2019. It's
Listen,
probably
it's
200
outrageous
million
right now.
today. So 100 million people are pretty much keeping the entire country running. And out of those people, it's like 30, 50 million. Like really the
And
small amount of people that are actually doing all the work is like a
Yeah.
mess. It's a whole mess.
listen,
And
not
the
just like
workforce right now is horrible conditions for
They don't
everyone.
want to pay.
Long
Also, they don't wanna
hours.
pay.
Yeah, don't want to pay.
pay has gone down.
Bank of America's idea worked. They listened. You guys didn't hear that memo? You saw that memo?
Yeah.
No.
The Bank of
keep
America
'em
leaked
poor.
a memo. They were having a conversation, the board
Yeah.
with another company, and they were talking about we got to make sure that people's wages don't go up. We
Yeah,
gotta tell
they got to
companies
stay poor.
They got to stay poor. Stop raising their salaries.
And not just
Right.
like, you're not
Yeah,
just
okay.
looking at like
This is
the
banks. This is different institutions talking to each other. So
people not being able to afford food, but let's talk about like the other necessities. Like people are, how many are about to become homeless by getting evicted?
Right.
How many millions of just families?
Yeah.
We're not talking about individuals. We're talking about millions of families are going to become homeless because they're going to get evicted because they can't afford rent. You're going to have people this winter that are going to have to choose between, am I going to pay my water bill or my heating bill?
Well, the good thing is in certain states, by law, they cannot cut the power or the utility. They cannot cut the
Like
water.
three-
They cannot
three
cut the
months?
heat.
For like 3 months.
So in New York, they
if you
cannot cut
don't
your
pay.
heat.
Oh, you mean like at all in the wintertime?
No, so the government cannot cut off your heat. The bill will stack, but they cannot cut off your
Right.
heat.
Oh, I did not
Even
know
if
that.
you
See,
owe
I
the entire
thought-
bill.
See, I
Come
thought
to
the
Georgia,
electric
I promise
company
you
or
it's not
power
like that
company,
here.
No,
or
they
in
can't
my
cut your
state, it was
power
like
either.
3 months.
That's a state by state thing.
Like
It's
3
not
months.
federally.
Yeah.
They can cut your power
Yeah.
in the summertime.
They will.
Oh,
They
okay.
will,
extent.
They
Well,
will
yeah,
cut your
they will.
power or water.
Yeah.
Summer or
But
winter. They don't
here
care
they
either.
give you about 3 months before they do that. Like they don't cut it off immediately if you miss a payment.
Well, in Puerto Rico, the bills went from $200. Somebody got a $6,000 bill. Obviously, it's wrong, but $6,000 bill instead of a $200 bill.
Have
And
you
it's
seen
not like
what's
the
happening in
Texas
UK?
market thing. It's not like the Texas market thing because Texas was buying. It was a weird exchange thing. It was a glitch in the computer system. They had an exchange system inside. Basically, they were running an Enron in Texas, and it went wrong. On top of the cascade failures that did occur because they over-relied on wind and they didn't properly treat those machines. So a portion of them were disabled by the cold winds.
So, Louise, do you know about what time period that B of A memo was? Was it 10 years ago, 5 years? You know how long ago it was?
What
Or the
memo?
memo?
What?
The memo that B
memo?
of A was talking about, we got to keep wages suppressed.
Oh, that happened this year, I think.
Oh, the reason why I asked is because
This happened like 2 months ago, 2 or 3 months ago.
the reason why I asked is because over the last 40, 50 years, wages have not kept up with the GDP.
Oh, 100%. The true median,
that is.
the true median salary, according to 2019 numbers, was $33 an hour. To 2022 numbers, it might be 35 to closer to maximum 40, but 35. It's because of the same way you got to look at inflation globally, right? The problem is they're raising interest rates for reasons that bewilder me, the world, because the world has told the U.S. government, stop raising interest rates. You're pushing the entire global market to an insane degree. That's the Intercept article. Yes.
Okay, yeah, but I'm a conspiracy nut. I need to let y'all know.
This just came out. Look,
So are we.
July
Captain
29th.
Conspiracy, sir.
And
But it's not a theory. This is a fact. There's no. There is no theory.
you
It's a
gotta
fact that
understand.
they have kept wages
Yeah.
low.
Well,
It's still
I say,
considered
I say,
conspiracy theory, though. Like to
What do
most
you
of Americans, because to most Americans, they don't believe it.
Okay,
They
do you know how much
refuse to believe it.
do you know how much they pay at Facebook? They
no.
have salaries. They have salaries in the 300 and half a million range that are common in Facebook. Well, one is because nobody wants to work at Facebook, so they have to fucking throw money at you to hire you if you're a high talent individual. But I only say that because these are examples of just how much demand there is in the market and what the real value of the dollar is when you see high value individuals getting poached at the $600,000 range plus. And these are just employees. These are not these aren't that high up, and they're in the 600,000 range.
The person that raised it. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying, but before I was the conspiracy theorist on TikTok, I was the pill nurse. I was a med tech at a nursing home. And we worked 12-hour shifts. It was supposed to be, 3 days on, 2 days off. And it never was. Let me tell you, you would be appalled at what I started out working at for 12-hour shifts. I'll just let you guess. How much do you think I made an hour taking care of people for 12 hours a day? How much do you think? $7.25 an hour.
What?
I believe it.
And
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
never got your 2 days off. You never got your 2 days off,
What?
bro. We're always understaffed. You would have an hour lunch taken out of your paycheck, whether you got to eat lunch or not, because you don't know when you're going to get to sit down to eat. You never know. And sometimes you don't eat that whole time. When COVID hit, that's when they made me a med tech. I got a 50-cent raise for night shift. And I worked every single night. Mind you, I have 3 kids. And they did not care. They didn't give a shit. And I actually quit, had to go back because I couldn't find anything else. And when I went back as a PCA, which was lower than a med tech, I was making $10 an hour because they had to give out a mandatory raise to healthcare workers. So I was making more when I went back in a lower position than I made when I first started, before COVID hit and during COVID. I mean, that's just how bad it is out there now. And for healthcare workers, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous.
They're also intentionally importing people in because, okay, let's look back in history. Look at every single big migrational movement that happened to the United States. Review it through the lens of war.
Right.
You start seeing it, you'll notice there's a direct correlation between immigration and war.
That's very true, actually.
just look at it.
Oh my God.
Migration is either post or pre-war.
Oh my God, you're so right. World War II.
It's right in front of us. I mean, it's
my God.
like a TV show. Central planners are devilishly calculated. It's just people cannot fathom central planning could be this complex. That's it. It's just people cannot fathom central planning can be that complex. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. The Chinese have been building 30, 40, 50, 100-year plans.
Do you think
they just talk about it openly? That's the difference.
To think that people with lots of money and, don't sit around.
We don't have a vested interest to keep their money.
And I'm just saying, just as a good example, with a lot of money and influence, don't sit around and conspire to do things. Is to not believe that happens is quite a
leap of
laughing matter. Really. Like,
socialists
who do you think the lobbyists are?
Go ahead, Art.
Socialists play the long game. They play hardball and they play for keeps. They were behind the civil rights movement. We can talk about that too. But they wanted to integrate society so that they could socially engineer society. And they didn't want a group that was separate, that wasn't part of the mainstream society, blacks. They had to bring them into the corporate society as a whole. So that's what the movement was about. Civil rights movement was not about black empowerment. It was about black inclusion into a culture that was about to be socially re-engineered. Now,
the Russians were working on that for decades.
Right. That movement started in the 1920s, not the 60s. And they started first with sports, because sports are central to who we are as Americans. Our identity is shaped by sports in a lot of ways. So they started trying to integrate baseball in the 30s. They weren't successful till the 40s. So they first integrated sports, and then people resisted it, but they began to accept it. They then integrated what? The military. Okay. And then people resist, and they began to accept it. They then integrated the education system. Then they began to integrate society as a whole, and people resisted, and they eventually began to accept it. The worst thing that happened to Black America post-slavery was the Civil Rights Act. That includes Jim Crow, segregation, the Black codes, the vagrancy laws, which had an effect of a second slavery. That includes the lynchings. That includes the prison industrial complex. Why? Because the Civil Rights Act eradicated and destroyed the Black community. Again, so the goal should have been to make us interdependent with other ethnic groups instead of dependent on the largesse of the government. And so when people talk about the Black culture and they contrast us with, say, the Asian community or even the Hispanic community, I'm saying, yeah, but you got to look at the game that was played on us first. How they destroyed our community, they called it integration, and then they systemically took the Black man out of the home. And I explained what they did to the Black. They wanted the Black man first because he was easy prey. And they make it look racial, but it ain't racial. You got to watch how the game is being played. First thing they did was they marginalized the Black man in his home. They said, you're nothing but a penis and a paycheck. They do that to all men, but we'll get to that. And then they ostracized him in his community. You're not needed in the community. And then they criminalized his existence. They dehumanized him, and then they feminized him. And then now we see, and they made it look racial, but it wasn't racial. The attack was on manhood. And you look now, they're doing the exact same thing to the white man, and they making it look racial when it ain't. What they've done, they marginalized the white man. He's not allowed to share his opinion on social platforms. Even when he's a topic of discussion, he's told his opinion don't count. They've ostracized him. They criminalized his existence by calling him toxic. They dehumanized him by calling him colonizer and oppressor. And now they're trying to feminize it. Why? Because they want to remove the warrior spirit out of the culture. I'm going to talk a little about Bible, but I do cuss, so y'all got to just bear with me.
You're okay, sir.
If you read the book of Isaiah, chapter 3, it talks about a culture that is turned upside down. And the reason why it's up, and how we know it's upside down, because they got the children running it. In other words, the people who know the least is doing the most talking. Now, what they did, but how did they make the culture vulnerable? They first removed the man of valor, the man of war, not the preacher, not the wise man. They took the warrior out.
Well,
first.
Look at the athletes' salaries. This is actually, there was a great conversation, I forgot who it was, that spoke about the reason why we pay these athletes so much money is because these athletes would be, in some ways, a whole different spectrum of human if it were unleashed into the world. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them could be amazing leaders. And so they realized, if we just divert them into this is some level 10 genius that, as somebody figured out like a while back, that that's part of the reason the sports system is built the way it is, because it's one of the best distractions for powerful minds.
You know what? I think the entertainment industry is the same way the music industry. I think it does the same thing.
Oh yeah, the music industry is the same thing. You're a great influencer. I'm gonna pay you whatever the fuck you imagine. I'm gonna give you all the fame in the world.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you all the money, but guess what? You're gonna have a puppet strings attached to your arms.
Right.
Do you remember at the beginning of Afghanistan and Iraq? Do you remember a Arizona Cardinals wide receiver named Pat Tillman? who gave up his millions to join the military and went to
The one he was
Afghanistan.
really young. Yeah, and he died.
And
That one, the guy that he was big.
He was he was with the 2nd or 3rd Ranger Battalion.
Yeah.
And they killed him in a friendly fire accident.
Accident in
That's
quotation.
a whole story because of that. We won't get into that, but there's a whole story of why they killed him.
Go ahead.
I was
Well,
gonna
I
say
just
bad in quotations.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you.
So this whole thing of why athletes are diverted to,
Sports.
that guy, diverted to.
He doesn't even look real. He looks like a caricature of a human being. It's like that's what a
Right.
cool like precision art like that looks like a soldier of a cartoon, but in like a cool way. Yeah,
It's about a 50-50 shot now. There's a lot of athletes now that I wouldn't trust to put burgers at McDonald's.
but some
it's
are
about
really, really
50.
smart, and
Some of them are really, really smart,
you
but
can do like
again,
100
like
different things.
again, like everything else, it's kind of going, it's kind of going south.
Well, it's weird. It's like there's some humans that are like different types of geniuses that come to movement,
Yeah.
right? So movement and certain strategic advantages that people don't perceive. Like there's people that are fearless. When I mean fearless, I mean they have no reaction. So at any moment, somebody just pull a knife, put it right at his eye right here. He would just be like, "Oh, hi." He has no reaction. They were studying his brain, and like that's why he can do. Like he sadly died, crush into a mountain, flying through the air. But
That's not normal. That's a problem.
Well, hopefully he was calm for his daughter. So yeah,
I want to go back to something you
that might
said.
be a blessing. Oh, but Art, back to like the first thing that you said. The first thing that they did, with segregation. Because weren't there a lot of Black communities that were like thriving before that?
Tulsa, there were ones down here in Georgia where Lake Lanier is now that they drowned in. And there was a lot of places more.
And more than
more
that, like
so.
the mud floods, right? The mud floods were probably
Well,
the more
as far as like the government
building,
interfering, like if
right?
you look at Tulsa. Tulsa's a great example. Like they had a
Yeah.
huge,
this is
it's
a
been referred to as
terrible
the Black
event.
Wall Street, and there was a lot that went down there, and the Black community was thriving separately from the American
Was that
government and
before
everything else.
segregation though? That was
doing
before
something.
segregation.
That
During
was doing
segregation.
But
Yeah.
the Black community that was in Tulsa, like
But it had to have been happening
Art's probably
before
studied
that.
this a lot too. But you can see where they were very prominent and had their own entire, like their old Tulsa, Oklahoma at the time was its own entity for the Black community, and then like boom, here comes the government and all this other stuff that happened.
I mean,
there was a lot
they
of deranged stuff that
they
happened.
didn't go as far as what's that place we were speaking about it in Move. Remember Move?
Yeah, where they bombed.
They bombed multiple city blocks.
Philadelphia,
like
and that was in Philadelphia.
Yes. What the?
Yeah, that was in Philly.
Yeah, there were multiple cities thriving.
No, I mentioned that it's not the first time the government kills people. Like
it's not the first
in
time,
Puerto
no.
Rico, the government killed 50. I think it was 54 people were murdered in a protest.
Oh yeah.
Like, do you think the government's not going to come to kill you? They will come to kill you. Like they've done it many times. It's not a new thing.
Yeah.
Black Wall Street was not unique.
No.
There were multiple cities around it. There's a map that shows the Black Massacre of the Massacre of Black Townships. You can just Google that. You can find it, the Massacre of Black Townships, and they were all over the country. And what happened was, and here's why.
Has anybody written on that subject? I'd like to read more of that.
That I don't know if there's anything formal. I know something's been written on,
like some writer that's focused on it.
But as far as overall, I don't know. And here's what I say: the number one way to oppress a people is to deny them equal protection under the law. And so what happened was the government had an obligation to protect those townships, and they didn't. Now, What now? Here's why. Notice that during segregation, blacks were able to build all of those businesses, and we had black millionaires back then because within the black community, we had our own banks, our own schools, our own hospitals, our own grocery stores. Our own grocery stores, I mean, we could feed ourselves.
For those out there watching.
We can do business among ourselves. Schools, we can educate ourselves. Hospitals, we can heal ourselves. Now, post Civil Rights Act, we have none of that, and you have to ask yourself, okay, why were we able to build those things during segregation, but we're not now? When we have more access to wealth, despite the leftist rhetoric saying that we don't have access to wealth, and I warrant that there's a certain amount of wealth that's just locked away among the elite that none of us will get access to. I don't care what your skin color is. I get that.
Well, that's why we need to make it that
You
new
need to be a
change
certain
come and
bloodline to get that money.
we got to extract that back to the general public, and that's in some ways that'll be an equalizer to the greater society. Now, how that will happen, I don't know, but it needs to happen in order to equalize everything because it's been too long, too small a group with too much power.
Yeah, but they ain't gonna get that power up easily. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Y'all have to come take it from me.
They're not.
With the Rothschilds, y'all would never get it because y'all have to take it because I wouldn't share it.
I mean, the thing is, there's those people that have committed atrocities beyond what mankind can accept is acceptable.
Right.
But they're not known to have done those things. But I can mention a few names here and there that are very well known, prominent people that their actions has killed tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of human beings at zero accountability whatsoever.
But most of them, we will never know. We will never know who they are. Not really. You know, we have
Mark, I can mention
names, but
Facebook has created more than 600,000 casualties because of their actions. They caused the war in Myanmar and the Ethiopian Civil War. 2 wars under their noses. They're the cause of it.
Zuckerberg is
that's weaponizing. That's testing and weaponizing technology.
He's definitely an asset, allegedly.
Yeah. No, he works like the FBI literally had an office right next to his. He was doing an interview, and the FBI agent came in and said, like, "Hey, Mark," and walked out.
But you have to ask yourself, why was, when I first got on social media, Facebook was just one of many. It wasn't even the one. I wasn't even on Facebook. I had Friendster and MySpace.
Yeah.
Tom never betrayed us.
Right. Why did they fall away? Because they backed Facebook. He was their asset. Corporate asset.
They're big too.
Right. And all they do is collect data on us. And there's a reason why they changed the name to the metaverse.
But it's a happy day every time I see Zuckerberg losing billions every single day. Every single day that I see that he's losing billions, and he's been knocked out of the top 20 now. He's not even in the top 20 richest people in the world anymore.
Wow. I mean,
okay, so when I say rich people in the world, I mean listed. Okay.
Right.
Listed. Because a lot of assets are hidden behind a lot of...
Oh, no. I'm talking about people that just are anonymous, that are super rich, like beyond Bezos and... I
guess I will never know.
Those guys, yeah.
Right.
I don't even think Zuckerberg's in the top 20 anymore.
Right. The truly rich, we won't know their names. They're not elite. If they have a Facebook page, they're not elite. They're just something they can't watch. That's just part of it.
If you can gain access to them easily, and now there are names, like the DuPont and the Lees, and the list of 30, the list of the 13 families, and there are variations within that list. I don't know if you've ever actually read through that book, but I mean, it says in there, within those certain families, there are variations of the last names. They change their last names for those reasons, so that they're unknown. But even behind them, there are more that we will never, ever know about.
Right.
Sure, man,
The
it's
guy,
interesting.
what's the guy who owned Pizzagate? The little guy, the guy who owned that pizza parlor place in DC
Yeah.
or whatever.
You're talking about you're talking about Papa John's.
No,
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 no, no,
not
no.
that one.
No, 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 no,
He's
no.
talking.
Not
He's
that one.
talking. What
I
is
thought
that
you were
guy's
talking about Papa
name?
John's.
Give me a second. What is it?
Or you're talking about Pizzagate. I thought that was like
You're talking
Kevin
about Pizzagate.
He's
Yeah.
talking about Pizzagate? What about Pizzagate?
Comet Ping Pong.
What his
The
name
owner
is?
of it. His name is. I can't remember.
I can't think of his name either. He's a bastard. Allegedly he's a bastard Rothschild. Allegedly. So, like you said, the names get changed. We never know the names. I've seen some things that say that he's.
I'm thinking it's John something.
John Podesta?
No.
No,
John
no,
Podesta is
not John
him.
Podesta.
Yeah,
John
but John
Podesta's some sketchy shit.
God, what is it?
Podesta's working back in the White House.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's
that's
what I'm
really-
saying. He's some sketchy shit.
I just
and he's back in government.
I just did a video on
He got-
them
I see his
today.
face too. I see his face. I can't call his name.
I know.
Yeah, and they had the little mural.
Jimmy,
I don't know. Really, I can't.
it starts with a J. I know it starts with a J. I know that.
Yeah, but I was agreeing with your point. But the names get changed. We'll never know. He's supposed to be part of that lineage.
I mean, a lot of this information, it's a mix of public and I don't care, and it's not covered. It's if you look into these things, you can find most of the connections. It's more about how much do we know about their real asset, like
Right.
diversification, right? So when I was talking to a few people that do this type of asset management stuff, and they say some people quadruple what they publicly say they have, quadruple what they say they have. So some of these people potentially could be trillionaires. Like, I mean, but Putin's known
James
because he owns so much of
Alfonso. I'm
Gazprom.
sorry.
He's insanely rich.
That sounds right.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that sounds right. Yeah.
Putin wears to
That
the
was-
gym $3,000 tracksuits. If you guys didn't know how Putin lives, he looks like he's living a normal life. Everything he wears
He
is like
doesn't.
extremely expensive designer clothes.
The coat he showed up, they made a big thing about like when
How
he
much would it
showed up.
cost?
That coat was like $12,000, like down like jacket.
This
that
man,
he was
it's
wearing.
like the epitome of the caricature of like an oligarch. He's the
Yeah,
caricature of
and
an oligarch.
he showed
He's a
up and he
caricature.
was talking to the huge crowd of Russian people chanting right at the. I think it was just like a month after the invasion of Ukraine. He was standing in this like auditorium.
This is for the parade,
Yeah,
the military parade.
Yeah, and he was standing in this stadium. No, it was some big like sports stadium surrounded by people waving Russian flags and stuff like that. And he
Party.
had on the huge like gangsta jacket. And it was like 12 grand. Like this dude, like his like the palace that he lives in
But George W.
again,
Bush had $20,000 suits.
I'm having a moment. Right
Just
now.
look up who some of these like what suits they're wearing, who designed their suits. Let's not you could like take away. Americans do the same shit too.
Yeah.
Our politicians are dressed in like the most expensive shit you can think of.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you can knock him if you want, but Rasputin, yeah, he doesn't mess around.
He doesn't mess around with fashion.
Yeah. No, he doesn't.
Did you ever
man.
think?
I think
Did
this
you
goes-
ever think that dystopia would feel like this? Like you had this like presidents that are wearing designer clothing.
But I mean, in reality, you know,
Are they really in charge? I mean, when you think about it, though, are they really in charge? Though, is that really their wardrobe? Are they just being put into like a expensive suit just for the camera and then told, get back into that fucking Brooks Brothers shit?
If there's
Yeah.
other people, if there's a hell of a lot of people above them, who the hell would they be? That would be freaky.
Like I've always said, though, the powers
That'd be
that
insane.
be, the real people in I say this over and over again, and you just can't dispute it. The real people in charge. I mean, you've never seen their faces. Well, you might have, but just not thought anything of it.
Jim Carrey?
Jimmy has an interesting take on this, but it's like, you would never know. The real people in charge, you don't know who they are. They've never been photographed. Nobody knows their lineage. They're not in any books.
They're among us. Like they've been.
Oh, I 100% say they're among us.
they just when you're that rich, you're like access anything rich. So with
Yeah.
politics, when you have access anything rich, you have to like create an actual budget and live
Now-
inside of a budgetary constraint. Because if not,
And-
you're too fucking weird.
These guys are the real people in charge, because like I like to think of the not just like individual countries. I like to think of the world. It's not a corporation, but I like to think that it's a corporation.
Yeah.
And the higher you go high enough anywhere, you always come to one
Oh,
person.
Okay, this is
In any corporation, they can say, "Oh, it's run by a board." No, it's not. It's chaired by one person, and there's one person always in charge. And that's the same way with the world. There's one person in charge.
Do you think
If
that's
we
why then they
dig
constantly say
deep enough-
patriarchy, because it's still a white man?
Who knows who it really is? I mean,
I think if we dig
it could be a
deep
totally
enough
different
to the
discussion,
Roman
but
Catholic Church, should find out.
and they're pawns.
Right. If you
I,
got a
But
Facebook page,
It's the only
way to talk.
person that every leader listen. He's the only person every leader shows respect to and goes to meet. And I think if we
what, the
look
Pope?
into the Pope, yeah, I think if we listen to the
No,
Pope and the Pope,
he's a
was-
The Pope,
pawn.
it's a
It's a
And-
symbolic thing. The Pope is symbolic.
the Pope is symbolic.
Oh,
The Pope is symbolic, and that's not even the real Pope. You know,
no.
it's but we're
They're the only ones that
I
been
have
in
not
charge
heard that
for
the
a
Pope
significant
passed?
amount
What?
of time.
I want to
You
go
know,
back
for
to
the longest.
I know we're getting way off track.
I want to go back to something
Okay.
you like I said, we got close a couple of times to getting into the industry. I had a friend who I used to manage him, and he was a rapper. It sounded just like Tupac. Anyway, there was a local DJ who had a project. He asked him to come do a track. He went on, he did the track, and that DJ, the record producer, knew a DJ at a radio station, and so he went on and they played the project. It was just supposed to be a one-off, but the song that my guy was on, they started liking that song, so that song became in rotation, and that song became the #1 song on that local radio station, not nationwide, but on that local radio station. And so they did a show, and he was the featured artist. But when he came there, he got there, they put some clothes on him, gave him a huge chain and a diamond-studded Rolex. And he said, "What's this?" He said, "They think you're successful." So he had to go out there before and said as soon as he came off the stage, they stripped him butt naked. They got all that stuff back. So you're right about a lot of it is appearances.
Yep.
Mhm.
100% appearances, man. It is. Power is perceived, man.
I did a video on that. I talked about actual power and perceived power. But yeah, and something you said earlier, Louise, about one of the reasons why wages have not kept up because they want to eradicate the middle class. That's part of the socialist Marxist movement, and that takes time to do that. You notice how the wage, the salary gap, the wealth gap has widened. You got more millionaires and billionaires now, and that's people who are considered middle class. And now, if you have $1 million, that's nothing nowadays. You're still
no, actually, middle class is up to, you need to have minimum, like to go above middle class. I think you have to go above 1.5 million net worth.
Oh my god.
This is according to more of the government, how they like made the determination of what becomes like not middle class in relationship to asset class. Estate tax hits you at 5.5 million. So just put into perspective that the rich people tax don't start until 5.5, and they're now making a whole new bracket for like I think 25 million and above, which I'm fine with. There's no problem with that. Like it's just how it's structured, and there's ways to avoid it, and like taxes, they're hilarious. It's a complicated mess. It's designed to fuck with people. It's designed to fuck
I'm
with
just
people.
trying to
I
accelerate
just stand my
getting out into the woods.
and do it.
taxation is the form of slavery. It's designed to keep the people oppressed.
We need to make the tax code 100 pages, not 10,000. This is insane.
Yeah.
We need to change the tax code.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it? Kane, the best idea he had, 999 or something like that. Like it was going to be a flat tax at 9% on everything.
I think that was Steve Forbes had that idea first. Steve Forbes is the first time I heard that idea.
Herman Cain
pushed it a lot. He was a local boy here.
Herman Cain. You might have been right that somebody made it up before. Herman Cain just pushed it again. I'm not saying he might be the originator, but Herman Cain.
I got you.
Herman Cain, and well, that's where the first. So Singapore has a 20% tax, pretty much, on almost everything. And by the way, buying liquor in Singapore, good luck. It's going to be triple the price it is here. Beers are like $20-something a 6-pack. Singapore is really expensive to buy you in cigarettes. Every vice is taxed heavily. So people in Singapore to really party, they just leave the country.
It's cheaper. It's probably cheaper for them to leave the country.
Cheaper to take a fucking plane out of the country.
The people,
in some ways, that's how rich they are.
The people would have to rise up and do what do they call that? The ratification of the states to get that over.
The weirdest thing is Singapore is like this weird corporate dictatorship, but everybody agrees. It's like how society should work in many respects. And they're actually one of the lowest corruption countries on earth. There is problems in Singapore. Don't get me wrong. Singapore's not perfect, but God damn it, certain parts of their model, they got that shit right. It's like, what does a good functioning city system look like? Well, Singapore. They pay their politicians really well, though. The salaries are like $1 million.
With so much less stress, they don't really.
They don't steal. They don't steal because they're well paid. Look at that logic. They don't steal because they're well paid. It works.
Yeah, the tax code is designed that way purposely. They make it difficult because it's part of how American citizens we pay our debt. Because FDR used the 14th Amendment, how ironic is that, to turn all U.S. citizens into debt slaves. And we're debt slaves to the federal government and to the world banking and the Federal Reserve. Because you got to remember, we had to borrow money from the Federal Reserve to get out of the Great Depression. Well, we didn't have enough gold as collateral. So what did FDR put up as collateral? He put up the U.S. taxpayer, which is why they wanted two households. They wanted two people in a household working, and also to get the wife out of the household. So how do we pay that debt back? We pay that debt back through either military service, the prison industrial complex, through man hours, or you pay it back through taxation. They're going to get that money back out of us. That's the goal, is to keep us in debt.
Well, that's why they said the Social Security is gone. Like, look at what happened in the pensions already in the UK. They said they were about to lose everything, but they saved it. Like we were yesterday, I think it was yesterday, the day before, they were going to be gone. Like if they did crazy stuff with the equations, they would have broken everything. That's how fragile everything is right now. That's probably tens of millions of people in the UK would be really pissed off that all their money disappeared.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
that's the problem with crashing things, though, is that you really fuck over people no matter what. But the house of cards needs to crash somewhere or another. It's just where it's going to crash and which direction it's going to crash is on top of who is it going to crash on. And the way the government is working it is so it crashes on top of the rest of the planet and not in the United States, which is kind of it's like the United States
suicidal, man.
It's suicidal. The world is going to go against us because we're destroying the world currencies by raising our own interest rates because their interest rates are fixed to our interest rates. It's like diabolical what the Fed is doing. They're even asking them, could you stop? Could you please stop?
They won't.
And the other countries ask you, well, why don't you play nice?
Yeah, we're in a catch-22 because we're a reserve currency. And, people ask why we always give all this foreign aid. Well, in order to be the foreign reserve currency, 4 things have to be true, and I can't remember all 4 of them. But 1, your dollar has to be available, it has to be in demand, and it has to be in use. And the best way for our dollar to be in use is to give it to those other countries, and we give it to them in the form of foreign aid. but they also need a place to spend those dollars. That's why we gave them access to the American consumer. That's why those jobs got shipped overseas, and that's why we always import things so those nations can spend their dollars here.
Did you know 15 countries live off the French franc, and they charge them a mint fee?
Did not know that.
I was like, this was the Italian new Italian prime minister talking about it. I was like, I didn't know it was 15. I thought it was like 4. I honestly didn't look into like the economic imperialism of France. They just learned of the military imperialism of France. You know, they're the third most powerful military on earth, depending on the category you're talking about.
Yeah.
The French have more bases than the rest of the world. Like it's the United States number 1, then number 2 I think is China, and then number 3 is France.
So,
yeah,
Luis, are you gonna go visit the new Chinese police station in your hometown?
What? We don't got those yet.
I seen where there
Don't
was
tell
one
me we have
open
one
in New
now.
York City or something.
Don't tell me there's a Chinese. I was hearing about happening somewhere that they were going to put
It's
their own
happening in Canada,
Chinese
but apparently one
cops
just
in another
opened
country.
Apparently, one just opened in New York City up there. Hang on, I'm looking.
They're enforcing speaking of that, they're back to their zero COVID policy. And
By the way, do
China
you imagine
right now.
that the Chinese already won? Would the joke be that China already won behind closed doors? That'll be fascinating. That's why it looks like such a show.
I don't like that idea.
I mean, it's a good show. I'll give them that. Damn, what a show.
Interesting.
Oh my god.
I mean, they control the education system already. They control they control so many industries.
I mean,
Real estate, how
they
they've destroyed Canada.
Education system too, because
They're the neo-imperialists. They are making a lot of money, but they're distributing their money. Well, we don't.
Come on, China.
The Chinese at least distribute their money better than we do.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, the
do
Chinese
not.
distribute their money better than us, which is weird to say. But
I'm actually really terrified right now for our country because, like, Joe is not going to
there's
make
350
it.
million people in China earning more than Americans. Or like 300 million earning more than Americans. Come on. They're earning decent lives over there.
Wow.
Or at least their lifestyles in terms of economics are like higher standard than ours.
I mean, it's still interesting.
But there's still like 800 million poor people. There's still a problem in China. That's not, and then there's the Uyghur problem where the slave camps. That's the thing. We can't let those narratives control our narratives.
Are we talking about my buddy Winnie?
Yes. Can we show a picture? We need to insult him. We can find a good one.
Yes,
we need to insult Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the She.
Winnie the She. Winnie the She. Winnie the She.
So
fuck that guy.
Well, no, but I mean, anyway, while we're sitting here talking crap about it, and I'm, pulling up a good picture. You were also talking, Art, about, that kind of goes along with this power narrative and stuff. You kind of made mention towards it a little bit there when you were getting to it a minute ago or whatnot, but you're talking about how the Black Lives Matter group or whatever, you had some strong opinions on some of the stuff going on there.
Yeah, what ended up happening was what they do in the Black community is they stick a black face on something and they say a few key buzzwords and they get us to hoop and holler and support it. But that's part of their program anyway, is when they find somebody who looks like the target group. And so Black Lives Matter comes along, and it is an organization that is funded by George Soros. And their goal is to push Marxist ideology onto the masses. So one of the things that I did is when I always get pushback from my friends. And one of my friends said to me, he says, "Why are you against everything that's black?" I said, "I'm not against everything that's black. I'm against everything that wants to exploit historical black pain and trauma. That's what I'm against." And you should be able to see through BLM. They're see-through. You can see what they are. And so he said, well, at least they're out there doing something. And so I started researching, okay, what is it that they're doing so I could respond to that statement? Because most people have no idea who Black Lives Matter is. And everything that they stand for is deleterious to the Black community. So in my opinion, from my research, there is nothing that they promote or espouse that is virtuous, righteous, or redemptive. And no one should be supporting them. As an entity, as an organization, or even a concept. For example, why do I say the concept? Because the concept is divisive. When you start saying Black Lives Matter, you're drawing a line of division.
You will call it a conspiracy theorist if you believe this.
Huh?
You were the article he just pulled up. You were called crazy if you were saying that George Soros influenced BLM. I'm like, there's the paper trail.
There's a paper trail. Millions of
it's
dollars.
very obvious too. Like at the end of the day,
matter if it's true. It's still a conspiracy theory.
that man spends close to $1 billion a year. By the way, that man makes so much fucking money that he could spend $1 billion just fucking around with politics. Look at the power of $1 billion. I just want to say, look at the power of $1 billion, because this is about how much he spends, how much he influences politics.
Doesn't he want to argue open source organization or something like
Cheaper
open
people.
something? But yeah, what most people don't understand, give you an example about BLM. The founders, they practiced a West African religion called Odu Ifa, which involves necromancy, spell casting, ancestor worship, and possession. In other words, most people have no idea that the slogan Black Lives Matter is a chant. It's mass spell casting. And this isn't me making this up. They tell you this out of their own mouths. Like when they say, you remember when they were going around saying, say their name? The dead people say their name, say their name. Okay, that's not to honor and remember and memorialize the slain. That's summoning spirits. They tell you this out of their own mouths. All you gotta do is read it. And then secondly, because they're Marxists, Leninist Marxists, in their worldview, Black does not even refer to pigmentation. They're not even talking about Black people. In their worldview, Black has to do with adherence to an ideology, that being a Marxist ideology. So when they're saying Black Lives Matter, they're saying Marxist lives matter. They're not even talking about Black people. And again, all of this is documented, and it takes you ain't even got to be Sherlock Holmes to
Just
find
don't
this
use
out.
Google, because Google is a piece of trash.
Anything
else?
Tell them what we use, Luis.
Well, there's Gibiru.
Use. And so
Gibiru is really good. If you want to search for like articles that are controversial, Gibiru. It's one of the best search engines I've found, because they show you a lot of shadow ban content.
Just send it to me later.
yeah, what website? What's that you said? What search engine was that you said?
Gibiru. I'll write it in the chat, because it's like when you really start exploring, I found things that were hidden away. I was like, oh, look, there is a real internet still.
There is a real internet still.
I use Yandex as one, but that's not one of the best ones. But yeah, so
Yandex is like all over the place. It's still censored. It's just a different type of censor,
right?
But they're still censored.
And that's one of the things that they hide the truth from. They don't want us to find the truth.
I mean, the truth probably is right on our face, like staring at us, and we don't know what the fuck it is anymore. It could be literally staring right in front of us, and we're like all like looking the other way because we don't think that that's the possibility, like that's the right choice. And that's in itself a thought experiment we have to all go through, right?
I'll give you another example about BLM. One of the chief deities that they worship is the god of chaos, called Eshu. So chaos is very much a part of their spiritual beliefs, but also chaos is a part of their Marxist ideology as well. So when they said that those meetings, those protests were designed to be peaceful, they were never designed to be peaceful.
No, I mean,
Now,
I love how they said
when you look at the
97% were peaceful,
right, how many?
and the others were
Well, you know,
fucking
that's-
riots.
93% are supposed to be peaceful. So if you're into
That's
gematria, which
7%.
I'm not,
That's really high.
percent, that number is significant. Why? Because they're occultists and they don't do anything random. They do everything by the numbers. 7% of the protests were violent. Now, there were 7,750 incidents. If you know numbers, 77 and 50, those numbers mean something. 542 incidents were violent. Well, 42 was the number of chaos. And again, I'm not trying to get all up into that, but I'm saying how the meetings were never designed to be peaceful. Over $1 billion worth of violence. And again,
Do you remember the
guy that
pallets
they
full
used-
of rocks? I mean, the pallets full of
Yeah.
bricks. Somebody would
Right,
drop
all that
pallets
was
full
put
of
out.
bricks.
I
Again,
remember that.
never designed to be peaceful. So most people get caught up in that mostly peaceful, but when you go into the numbers, you see how the game was being played. Also, again, it don't matter whether you believe in spiritual or not. They do. So that's why I talk about it. And
Well,
they tell that
spells
those
work.
they never saw those protests as political. They saw them as spiritual confrontations. And they tell you when they were out there, they were summoning spirits and casting spells and summoning upon their gods to bring them out about as much death,
You know, believe it or not, a
destruction,
search
and chaos as possible. They
Art-
tell you this out of their own mouths.
Art,
You know
yes,
what's
actually, on a search I
interesting?
just made for that, I actually found quite the handful of articles to thumb through. I did find one where, you know, it's actually a mainstream one, and they're trying to make the person sound ridiculous, but there's a lot of truth to what the person's trying to share there. So I'll make sure I share it with the episode, because, like, I mean, you know, there's truth in a little bit of everything, and when you start finding common denominators in a lot of the different articles about something, like you got to start reading between the lines and looking at things. And there does seem to be some interesting there seems to be some of that interesting cultism that is throughout the entirety of our government's dark state, I guess you could call them. I don't know what you really want to call them, but there
Remember
is
the
obviously
CERN
something
event?
that exists there. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
the dark entity behind the lines, like we've been talking about all night. And it seems they're even a part of that same dark entity. Like it's just another front. You know, like a lot of
Mhm.
things have been throughout history, as far as, you know, and this is a controversial thing that I bring up, but you can pull up photographs of Martin Luther King having dinners and stuff and hanging out with like the Rothschilds and other people of the prominent times that, you know, before he was a prominent thing of the spotlight and the FBI killed him. Like there seems to be a time that he was rubbing elbows with some of these people that kind of maybe ultimately led to what he was, you know, why he was killed, because he was, you know, crossing paths with some of these very powerful, rich people that might have had an agenda that they were trying to help him push, use him to help push. You know what I'm saying? Like, is because it's just, again, like you've been saying tonight, and I think it's a very powerful point to make. A lot of these agendas are very divisive. You know, I'm a very firm believer that the modern feminist movement is very divisive and full of garbage. Like it's just more of that, as people say, it's more of destroying the nuclear family. Which, listen, people, if we don't have people doing the family thing, humans are gonna like one day extinct, folks. Like, yeah, kind of have something to go with that. I know science can do some things, but science can't do it all forever. Like, just saying.
And not just that, keeping you divided by any means necessary, it makes you easier to control because you're split off into these smaller groups instead of one large cohesive group. You're split. You're split off into factions. You're easier to control.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Yeah, totally.
They keep you fighting amongst each other. They won't
Mhm.
turn on you.
So
Right.
I did post to you a recent ritual that happened at CERN that freaked people out.
Oh, are you? They came.
Podcast
Didn't they come out and say that was fake after the picture surfaced?
No, it's a video.
Are you talking about the one where the sacrifice? Yeah, I saw the picture. I never saw the video.
There's a video.
I saw the pictures.
You can hear
and
they
came out. Yeah, they came out after that. Yeah, they came out after that and said, "Oh, it was all fake. No, nothing to be alarmed about." Yeah.
Like the boy.
Why would you stage that? Okay, let's forget everything else. Why would you stage that? Regardless if it's a play, regardless if it's a show.
Yeah.
Why are you doing
Why?
that?
Yeah, why?
Even if nobody got killed, we still got questions.
Their music videos.
The first one is in the inauguration. The second one is the scientist dancing inside, and the third one is the sacrifice.
Yeah, I mean, their dances and their music videos are rituals. I mean, they're rituals. They're doing ritual dances.
It's the scientist dancing, too.
Yeah.
It's a ritual.
Oh yeah, take out the.
Es ist vermutlich nur ein übler Scherz, doch dieser hat jetzt böse Folgen. Ein Amateurvideo vom renommierten Genfer Forschungszentrum CERN sorgt im Netz für Aufruhr. Die Aufnahmen zeigen die vermeintliche Hinrichtung einer Frau direkt vor der Shiva-Statue am Zentrum. Der Mann hinter der Kamera scheint nicht zu ahnen, was gleich passieren wird. Die mit Kutten vermummte Gruppe marschiert auf den Platz. Einer Frau wird das Gewand abgenommen, sie legt sich auf den Boden, dann sieht es danach aus, als würde sie mit einem Messer erstochen.
Shiva destroys so Brahma can create. That's her purpose. Her dance is what destroys the world.
Die Szenerie wirkt bedrohlich, fast wie ein Opfer.
That definitely looks like somebody just got murdered.
Now, if that's real, all right, crazy. If that's not real, still, I got a lot of questions. Like, who the fuck ordered this? Who ordered this?
And like,
that's not the first time. I mean, that's not the.
And who's inside there?
Time that happens with a lot of like whenever they have like. And I think I'm getting feedback on my mic. That happens for a lot of like building when they open up new buildings, when they open up new institutions. Look at the Denver airport when it opened up. Look at all of the stuff in the Denver airport. That happens more than like.
Dude, they're still building. They're
still building. Look at the creepy paintings and the murals and the statue and the numbers. Yeah, the numbers written on the walls and stuff. I mean, it's like right in front of your face. People would just be like, "Oh, that's alternative artwork," and wow, that's kind of creepy. I mean, it's right in front of your face. You know what they're doing to you.
I mean,
part of my job is to help people see what's right in front of them. Again, I'm going to touch on the Bible a little bit.
Sure.
Prior to the fall of man, in Genesis chapter 3, God gives man 3 sets of instructions. The second set of instructions, he commands the man to see. We are commanded to see. And we're commanded to see. We're held accountable to understand what we're seeing. In other words, there's nature and its purpose. We are expected to see it. And there's a cost to not seeing it. So a lot of the stuff that you were talking about, Ben, and all that stuff in front of us, we're now paying the price because we don't see what's right in front of us. And they're advancing their agendas because we simply do not see it. And it's right there. And like what you were saying, Caitlin, about how they came out with the press release saying that it wasn't real. Well, that's called damage control. When you hear that kind of stuff, all you got to do is think Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. That's all they're doing. Right.
And it's not just people like not being able to see. They see it and just don't care, Right. I did a video. They don't care.
I did a video called The Fix Was In. And I talk about the 2020 election. I talk about the psychology behind the election and the 4-year psyop leading up to the election. And again, you touched on it. And I said that the goal was to produce a people who no longer care about right and wrong. And I go into detail in that video. But yeah, you nailed it. The goal is to produce the people who simply do not care what's right in front of them, and they don't care about right and wrong. You nailed it, 1,000%, Bandit.
And that's what they're doing. Like, I mean, slowly but surely. And look at this generation below mine. I mean, they don't care about it. And the things they do care about are ridiculous. Like, the things that they do go to war for, that you see them whining about on social media, are just absolutely ridiculous topics. I mean, things that they don't even, things that aren't even fucking real to worry about. Like,
Right.
and they have no idea what's going on in the world. Absolutely no idea.
They were saying that kids, because they don't have the same like particular sets of struggles that we've trained to like a problem. Some kids early on in life deal with very complex problems and learn to deal with them. Then we got these grown adults that never really had a problem in their lives, and then you get a whole situation where they don't have enough to fight. Some do, but that's the thing. That's the weakening effect. That's the weakening effect you were talking about. You slowly weaken a society. It's a progressive scale, and it's working. It is fucking working.
It's, the whole putting the frog in the cold water and slowly boiling it.
We're boiling, boys.
It's not boiling. Yeah, we're boiling. And you're gonna want to hang with the people that jump out when the water gets a little warm. You know what I mean?
Right.
These people that are like ditching everything and going into the woods, you're gonna want to follow those people. You really are. Yeah, you're gonna want to follow those people out into the woods. If you see them, go follow them. I mean, those are the people you're gonna want to be with.
How many movies have you seen? Everybody just goes into the woods, and then suddenly the people in the country become the leaders of everything.
Because
how many movies? That's what happens.
A good hard-working hand, regardless of what it is, and we're probably likely to feed you, dinner and let you sleep in the barn with the rest of the stuff.
Right.
So,
for all the things that we viewed as him doing wrong, man, I might catch some heat for this, but Ted Kaczynski's manifesto.
No, it didn't. He knew what was coming. Like, you're not.
How right was he? When he moved out into the woods.
A lot of people agree with him in the world of technology. A lot of people agree with him in the world of finance. A lot of people agree with him. There's like things like I agree.
He wasn't an idiot by far. He was not.
He was a mathematics professor at Harvard.
Yeah, at 25 years old, he was a mathematics professor. Yep.
That's the problem. He saw too much too early.
Hence why he moved out into the woods to get away from it all.
Didn't the brother say he couldn't have done the killings though? That it was impossible.
There's been so much. Yeah.
He wasn't a violent person. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but did we have any WMDs in Iraq? At this point, I would ask, because Ted Kaczynski just was predicting what the fuck was coming. Maybe he didn't kill anybody. Hey, I'm not calling out like people died. I'm not disrespect. I don't know, but I'm not to disrespect all the people that died and everything.
There was no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. What are you talking about?
Yeah, the government stages a lot of events. They say like somebody said something about the things that I said about BLM you can't say. Well, there's a bill called HR 34350 that has passed the House. Now it's a national defense bill, but you still have to read it because they got some stuff tucked away in there that applies to us. And in section 525, they describe what a violent extremist is.
And
it's by law and definition that they describe what a violent extremist is.
Could we go over that, please? I want to learn. What is a violent extremist according to the government? We're fucked.
You're a violent extremist already. Being on this podcast, you're a violent extremist. Welcome to the list, Luis. Jimmy and I welcome you to the list. We've been here a while. We'll be your guide. Okay.
As of 2020, we are violent extremists.
Yeah. Right, and the legislators have a list.
What's wrong with communicating?
And allegedly, probably all of our names are on that list. If it's not, it soon will be, allegedly. And they got a list of things that you cannot talk about. Y'all remember the Smith Act?
You can't talk about certain spies, like the legit list of things that you can't say. It's like, oh, I'm going to tell you where the spy location of this person is, because that's like revealing the state secret. Did you hear about the transgender couple that sold secrets?
The transgender U.S. Army medical officer was just caught selling medical information to Russia. U.S. Army medical information. They were hiding it in
sandwiches.
Russia. Yeah. And sending it to Russia.
Sandwiches.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
What were you going to say, Art?
In sandwiches. We're putting it between sandwiches. The chips.
Like on weed.
When I first got on TikTok, everybody started talking about the Smith-Munn Modernization Act. And
how
God,
that was a while ago.
And when I started researching it, because I started looking at January 6th and how that's playing out and the game that they're running on the people with that. But I started researching the Smith-Munn Act because we always thought that the Smith-Munn Act from 1948 said that you cannot push propaganda on the American people. That ain't what it's saying.
But Obama changed that.
Right, but that's my point. But the Smith-Munn Act never said that. What the Smith-Munn Act said was it determined who could push propaganda on the American people. And what they were saying is that the State Department could not push its propaganda on the American people, but that Congress, the media, that includes Hollywood, and the education system, it's their purview to indoctrinate the citizens. So it was never that we could never be propagandized. It was who could do it. Now, when we look at the Modernization Act, what that did is it goes after the internet, and it allows them to push propaganda through the mainstream media on us, but also it's to include the internet. That's why you can't say certain things coming after the internet.
That's been proven already. I mean, look at the Chinese firewall.
It's coming after that, right? So that was the goal.
It's the new. It's our version of the Chinese firewall.
Right, because you notice how certain videos get taken down because they're community guidelines violation. Yeah, that's what that is. That's the Modernization Act, the Smith-Munn Act, and yeah, Obama did change that, but it also widened the net to include the internet. You can't say certain things. So a lot of times,
I mean, that Obama was the whistleblower incarcerator in chief. He arrested more spies, not spies, but more people trying to get out the data of how corrupt the Pentagon is, how corrupt the State Department is, how corrupt the CIA is, how corrupt Edward Snowden and is simply one of the biggest examples. Another one is Chelsea Manning, that many people don't talk about her, and she was rattled. I mean, if you heard her story, you're like, holy shit. Edward Snowden ran away. That was the smart move.
I mean,
run away.
Julian Assange, truly the list goes on.
Julian Assange is just in pure hell. Like, poor guy.
There was a journalist in Washington, D.C. who just got like amnesia and ended up in a hospital and supposedly didn't know who she was, didn't know what she did. She didn't find out that she was a journalist in Washington until like a decade later after she had 2 sets of twins. But apparently the day before she went missing, she emptied out her bank account, quit her job, and
Seth Rich.
What she stumbled across.
Seth Rich. That's the simplest story. Edward Snowden said it was Seth Rich. It's not a debate. He was murdered. I don't know why they don't accept that it was murder. It's like, it's in your face. Like, there's no Seth Rich movie, even because it's so fascinating. There's no new movie because they won't be allowed to be mainstream. So if anybody makes it, it's gonna be like very like an investigative story on it. It's gonna get a lot of like pushback.
It'll be Hollywood controlled. Yeah, they will control the narrative. And the thing is that to people all the time, I say, we always talk about how the other side is being programmed, whatever side you're on. Well, they're programming all of us. We're all being programmed.
Of course, no. We're fulfilling some agenda somewhere. We're fulfilling some agenda somewhere.
It's the Hegelian dialectic. Like, for example, y'all remember when George Floyd got killed, stage event, by the way, but I do believe he's really dead. You notice how everybody was in agreement about how heinous that was? Well, they can't have that. So what did they do?
I mean,
they introduced his criminal past.
If you see the case data, I mean, the accusation is not correct. He was on top of his back. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that this is not bad anyway. But this is his neck. He was like here. The thing is, the angle of the camera made it look like he was like on top of his neck, but he wasn't.
Right, and that's how we know it was staged. We could hear everything. We could see everything. They made sure we could hear everything they wanted. The only time we could not hear and see was when he was in the backseat of that car and they was going over the lines, allegedly. And then they waited for Shiva to come up. They took him out of the car, and now it's showtime. That was staged. I'm not saying he ain't dead.
It really looked like
but
Ben Riley. I ain't even gonna deny it.
They wanted us to see that. We saw everything. We saw everything. We had the perfect angle to see everything, and they hear everything. Come on now. That they wanted us to see.
I mean, we do have a society that is that hyper connected, but I don't disagree with the possibility that they can choose someone as like, oh look, we can just take down this guy, because I mean, they could have just watched him. He was high as a kite, so they had a reason to arrest him because he was driving while intoxicated. So that's a detail that's important that people forget. Like, the guy was heavily intoxicated.
Right, but he was parked. They weren't moving. They were sitting there waiting for the police to show up. They sat there for like 8-10 minutes waiting for the police to show up. If I'm committing a crime, if me and Jim Bob decide to do something we ain't supposed to do, we're not sitting there waiting for the cops to come. We're getting out of there, Jimmy. And we ain't videotaping it at all. I promise you. I would never videotape us cooking the coke, buying the coke, cutting the coke, bagging it, or selling it. You got my word. I will never videotape us committing that. Yeah, it was staged.
Hey, I like this guy. We need to keep him around. He's got
is that they wanted us divided over that. They could not have us all in agreement because everybody was in agreement. Man, that's wrong. And it introduces criminal past. Hey, and now you got two opposite effects because they understood. People on the right were going to say, well, you know, that's his past, catching up with him, because they're programmed too. They know how they're going to respond. People on the left, they went from denouncing what was done to defending him and turned him into a martyr, which again was the purpose. That's a whole other video. We can talk about that another time.
I mean, he was not a good guy. He did a lot of bad things.
And at the time, people's loved ones were supposedly dying all over the country, and they weren't allowed to have funerals, yet his was broadcasted.
What's that guy's name? Tony Tempa? I can't think of I can't think of his name. Tony Tempa, I think his name was. He was killed in the same way that George Floyd was, much more heinous because they laughed at him, but he was white.
There's other people, other Latinos that have been murdered in atrocities and
isn't there a serial killer right now in Texas killing nothing but Latino people?
Right. Look up Derek Schaefer. He was a white man who they
Daniel Schaefer. Are you talking about the one in Las Vegas? The hotel, no, the hotel hallway. That's one of the most gruesome. That is one of the most like heartbreaking police murders that I've ever seen.
The hotel one, the hallway.
Yeah, where he begged for his life as he was crawling.
That's an execution. That was.
Oh yeah, it was just straight up murder.
What? That was a police murder to the jury. What the hell's wrong with them?
It's called a jury that is pro cop. And it's called qualified immunity, and it's called cops don't get convicted for shit like that. And he actually came back, and he received he received his paid retirement early. He's getting $3,800 a month tax free because of PTSD from killing Daniel Schaefer.
Oh, he's the victim now.
Yeah, he was. He got PTSD.
Poor victim.
And Tony Tempa, Tony Tempa, is that how you say his name? That's the one that they injected him with ketamine.
Oh my God, he was a child.
Yeah, he was an autistic kid, and they sat on him while he screamed for his mom and dad. Dude,
they gave him ketamine.
Yeah. Look at the amount.
The amount of ketamine they gave him was really high.
Yeah.
Why did they do that?
Because they're fucking insane. They probably misdosed him because they're idiots or they were high themselves. Yeah. To be honest, that's literally what probably happened. Is the EMTs were high, and they fucked up the dosage because of the high intensity of it. They fucked up the dosage.
Yes.
They do that. It happened. It's happened before many times.
But this is a whole new. This could be a whole other episode about.
But they didn't do enough to save him.
Yeah. They never do.
That's the point.
A dead person like that is less paperwork.
Oh, in China, that's the case. In China, if they hit you, okay, get this shit. If they hit you with a car and they cripple you, they are responsible for you for the rest of their lives. Get this shit. No, that's serious. This is so.
I know.
Because to give you one flat break. So there's videos of people running somebody over and then running the car back to make sure they're dead.
Right, I'll take care. Yeah, it's less expensive.
Because you just give the family $40,000 and you walk away.
Right.
Oh, I killed one of you peasants. Here's $40,000. Please walk away. Shoo 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 shoo. Peasants. Right. That's China, man.
But I understand it. Yeah.
That's how the rich live. I can literally run you over and just walk away.
Right. That's crazy. The life is that $40,000.
Oh shit! Look what happened with Alec Baldwin. Look what happened with Alec Baldwin. That was settled out of that. Money gets you everything.
Alec Baldwin just got away with murder because the piece of shit literally was aiming at the DP because he was getting probably mad at her, and I don't know. Who knows? Oh, you cut out.
So that's a whole nother episode we could do on stuff like this.
He's still in here.
Let's get a second. It could be a.
Well, no, I mean, there's been a bunch of fantastic things I think even cover here this evening. You know, just in general.
Oh, there's Art.
And Art, I knew you had something else to say back there a minute ago. You can go ahead.
Doing some stuff off camera. I didn't want y'all to see me doing it.
You're okay, Bob. You were about to say something.
Oh no, a friend of my cousin, my big cousin. I call him big cousin. He's a former police officer, and one of the things that I was explaining to people is about how police brutality is an issue, but it's not the biggest issue in the Black community. But that being said, one of the mistakes that they make is that when they always try to make it a racial issue about police, and I say you can't make it a racial issue, because once you make it a racial issue, you're going to divide the people. You have to make it a policy issue. In other words, when somebody gets stopped, what's the policy? What's policy being followed? Because once you make it about policy, you take race out. Race will come out in the wash, because then you can then ask the question, okay, well, why are officers violating policy? You can then ask the question, okay, well, why is policy different in this section of town than in that section of town? And if they're saying that the officers are poorly trained, again, policy. Well, why are you turning out poorly trained officers? When did you know the officer was poorly trained? We didn't even brought up race. When did you find out the officer was poorly trained? Okay, did he come out of the academy poorly trained, or did he get not being trained here? Now you can go after the system, because what happened once you make it about race and they say it's a bad cop, they cut that cop off and throw him under the bus. But it doesn't change the system. So you got to make it about policy. Why is policy not being here? Now, once you make it about policy, I can then go to quote unquote white people and say, look, there's an abuse of power under the color of authority. And when they say to me, well, they kill more white people, I would never say, well, there's more y'all. What kind of idiot would say that? What I would say is, see, ain't none of us safe. We're all subject to the abuse of power that's under the color of authority. And as citizens, we need to all be concerned about policy being equal across the board, and the race will come out in the issue and come out in the wash. Oh, well, he was racist. We don't care about that. He's a bad cop. Gotta make it about policy.
Police.
No, poverty is poverty is the simplest factor that makes us all equal. Like, people are just like, there's poverty everywhere. We should not exclude one group or another of getting aid because of who they are.
Right, and so if they say, well, the reason why the policy is different over here is because there's more interaction in this section of town. Okay, well, why are you sending your worst trained officers into an area which they're going to have more interaction with the public? They should be sending your best officers. See, you make it about policy, you can't get away from that, because then you expose the corruption in the system. And you go after the system, and then you can make a systemic change. And then you start taking away people's pension, even retroactively, you can change it. But once you make it about race, You play it right into their hands.
Police unions need to be done away with is a big thing that I am for, because there's too
Right.
much of scratching each other's
Qualified
back.
immunity.
I'm pro police.
Qualified
I'm pro
immunity.
police. But hey, I
No.
can correct.
Needs to go.
They don't need to exist at all.
With the right
They're trying to
now,
decide-
yes.
The tricky part is
they want to
if
bring in a
we-
global police force, and they're going to.
oh, we are. I mean, we are. What are you talking about? The United States already is.
Yep.
That's already a fact. We are the global police. We've been the global police for decades.
Oh yeah, did we talk about HR Bill 4350 and what a violent extremist is and how they made it? Yeah, they make it in.
We didn't go into the textbook definition. Can we read it? Like, can we actually find the textbook definition according to them? That's what I was talking about. Like,
I do happen to have it. Hold on.
What?
Believe it or not.
textbook definition of an extremist according to the U.S. government. Like, what's the actual textbook definition? Because you were mentioning the bill, and they mentioned that they define extremism. Okay, I want to read it. What does it actually say?
Well, you can go to the bill. If you go to the bill, you want to look at
That's what
section
we were
5.
saying. What's the line?
Wanna know for extremists.
Bill summaries.
Yeah, let's see. God damn.
They
You have to
define it in
define the
section
bill.
525. I had to scroll through all 1,300 pages to find that definition because they didn't tell me where to look.
Where was it?
Where did you look?
I looked at it when
Yeah.
I put up the actual bill. I looked at section 525.
I thought that's where I was on the bill.
We need a degree in just searching bills.
Yeah,
Like, I just looked at that search.
It's hard to
What
find
the
it.
hell?
It's hard to find it.
There's a whole science. No, I've seen bills before. I know it's a science to read through them.
Amendments.
That's why they're made this way. They're made this way so like
So you give up.
they don't want you to read what the hell they wrote.
Right.
That's on purpose.
That's the national defense bill, and they stuck that in there.
Oh, those things are like humongous. They're like 6,000 pages.
Right. And I had to read almost the whole thing. I'm like, man, I wish they would have told me where to look.
You read the whole thing? Damn, that was an effort.
You can't search keywords, you know.
I know people that do that shit. I'm like, damn, that took you like a week.
I didn't read it. I didn't read it word for word, but some pages I did read word for word, and some pages I perused. I just like, okay, I'm skimming through. Yeah, but yeah, it took me a while to find it.
Yeah, because you can skim to like, oh, this is all about like something so obliviously unimportant to me, or like,
Right.
but that's the thing is that inside of the nuance is where they put in weird laws, and that's how they put the disclosure law. So they try to force the government to disclose about UFOs. What did the government say? No, we're not gonna tell you shit. That's the government's response. Not gonna tell you shit. Oh, but we're forcing you. Congress is forcing the other state, the other part of the state. They're like, nope, we're not telling you. What part of this narrative did we forget? Like, we asked the government, what do you know about aliens? And the government said nothing. Like, they're lying.
Hey, of course they lied.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do not
And I
trust
know
the government.
why.
Period.
I know why.
It's pretty obvious they're lying. Like, no, everybody looking at it objectively when they see what they actually talked about, they're like, with these UFOs, we don't know what these are. I'm like, there's a lot more than those in the sky. And many people have, now the Starlink satellites do get confused as UFOs, but otherwise there has been a lot of sightings lately. In the war zone. There's sightings supposedly in the war zone. So
there always is.
Maybe I'm hoping for that one. If we're gonna shoot out the probability ratios, I'd go for alien coming than nuclear war.
One of the first to have his door knocked on if they were.
They're already here.
Because he's.
If there's an intelligent race messing with us, they're already here. Yeah. It's not that hard to hide. There's a lot of places to land without getting noticed.
And Luis and Bandit, we've discussed many times, we still have faith in the people and believe that there's alternative systems already at work that are going to flourish while Rome crumbles around us. And we're not. Governments come and go.
Governments come and go. Fucking mic tonight. Governments come and go, but the people will continue.
How else do you?
It's happened before. It'll happen again.
the intelligence that the ancient Egyptians had, and like
I think we just don't want to go backwards.
How did it forget? How do you forget that? How do you go backwards from being that intelligent?
Well, I think no. The thing is, we're not going backwards, but portion of the population might be. Like, so I'll say it like,
backwards.
but a portion of the population will always be behind a certain percentage of the population, regardless in relation to certain factors, because it's just how design is. Like, nature is governed in a certain way, and the evolution of certain collectives happens because of the intricacies of the collectives. There still needs to be some form of designation for everything. It's weird. We still need order inside of the chaos in order to establish some form of a structure that can progressively make us move forward. And what is that forward? We don't know. We don't know what we become next. We don't know where we're going to be in 200 years, but we might be very different to where we are now. Who knows what a person from 200 years from now would talk about? Like, would they be augmented? Would they genetically have been enhanced compared to us?
Sometimes I think we get reset. You know,
a percentage of us might. I think what's going to happen is the Flintstones, Jetsons. Some choose to be on the ground.
See, and that's where Jimmy and I have made this, I think, almost every other episode, this somehow gets played into this.
Totally short enough to be Barney Rubble, so this is going to be great.
Yeah, it's
Barney Rubble.
You either get accepted into the society that is technologically just like leaps and bounds forward, that are going to live in these mega cities, or you're going to be walled off and live out in what is referred to as the wasteland. You know, you're going to live on your own.
Robo dinosaurs. It's robots.
I'm okay with that. You know.
Or they're genetically engineered dinosaurs.
Yeah.
But I don't know
because they can't force everybody. They can't force everybody to like accept what's coming. They just won't. But I guarantee a very large majority will accept it willingly.
Absolutely.
I mean, they accepted other things into their page.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Don't get me started on that.
No,
that one was too easy. Okay, this is what turned on my spidey sense. 95% efficacy. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no extra argument here. No drug in the history of drugs has gotten that number. So it won the drug. I mean, I'm sure it probably didn't win the drug, but it, like, in ridiculousness, it did. Like, that statement meant to me, oh, they're lying.
Yeah, right. If they gotta push it that hard, propaganda-wise,
I don't even want to touch that stuff.
Yeah,
and I was right. Like, my medical, this is the thing. It's like really old classes of, like, in my biology classes taught me enough. I mean, in the internet as well. Then it's not rocket science what's going on.
If it's pushed that hard propaganda-wise by the government, you automatically know I don't need this.
The comic books are now banned, guys. They're now part of the problem. I mean, they've always probably been part of the problem, but yeah, comic books have been co-opted. Disney went full.
Good luck with that. All right. Well, I mean, I think this has been a fantastic evening. I think we've had some fantastic conversation. And Art, I like to go around at the end and ask anybody if they have anything extra they'd like to add before we sign off for the evening. So I'd like to start with you tonight.
I just enjoyed being here. I had fun. I'm just glad you guys had me and put up with me. It'll be about conspiracy theories. You guys have been.
No, we love it. It's this kind of conversations that we like to have. You know, just good stuff. And you know, a lot of the things you talked about, I do have articles and stuff for us to, you know, people to reference back to, as well as this right here is how you guys can get back to Art over there on TikTok, man. You know, he's doing pretty good over there, and you guys know I shared links to help you get back to these folks and stuff like that, and his link tree and stuff like that. So, you know, I had a blast with you this evening, so I really do appreciate you coming in and joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Caitlin, you got anything for us tonight before you sign out?
No, I'm glad that you came on, Art. That was a really good conversation.
Luis, what you got?
It was it was fascinating how we moved around so many different spaces. And I still wanted to show you guys classified documents from my grandfather. It's about narrative. It's about like narrative building, and it's very complicated. I was just like, oh, great. So that's U.S. Naval Intelligence classified documents related to things that they have to do.
Interesting.
That was back then in the 40s. Imagine what we do now.
You just keep unfolding. I'm telling you, you're the real life, most interesting man in the world. You just need a Dos Equis with you. Like, there's things going on there, man. Bandit, what you got for me tonight?
Nothing, man. It's good. Good episode.
I think so too. I've had a blast. Well, of course, you guys know. Make sure you get over there, check out unconstitutionalawakening.com and all the things we got going on over there. There's now a host section. You can get back to find everybody individually and find us where we've got things going on everywhere, including links to like our Spotify and our iHeartRadio and stuff like that, and everywhere you can watch us. Even our Facebook page, Captain Conspiracy and the Freedom Pirates. And speaking of that, you guys know I can't leave without giving you a good pirate joke. So, why do pirates really like pizza? Because it usually comes in pieces of 8. Thank you guys. You have a great evening.